Live from JMT Studios, it's time for Two Jersey Kids, the best video game podcast on the planet.
This is just Adam speaking here. I am actually doing a solo episode today, so you're lucky enough that you're going to be inside my brain for episode 59 of Two Jersey Kids, the gaming podcast that is Two Jersey Kids. We're here with you every Friday, and you're probably wondering where the best stick handler in the business, Gary Seisler, is. Well, unfortunately, we had a scheduling mishap. I am actually this weekend going to be driving down to Atlanta for a communion for Marta's cousin. So we're driving down on Friday, so we couldn't record on Friday, and unfortunately Gary's schedule on Thursday got a little hectic because he had to stay late at his ice hockey shop, because Gary loves hockey, of course, and for some bullshit men's league game. So he would say that right now too, and I kind of miss that he's not here right now, and I'm sure you all you Jersey kids out there, miss him too. But before we roll into everything gaming-wise and everything, I just want to make sure you all know you can find us every Friday. We are a gaming podcast offering you outside perspective of the gaming industry and all the news that inhabits it, because we're just fans, and me and Gary are, best friends just talking about video games. But now you just have me rambling off on and on, so this is going to be exciting, episode 59. But you can find us every Friday. You can find us on Twitter at Two Jersey Kids. If you're a new listener, please stick with us until the end. And I hope I personally get you to subscribe. Get you to hit that subscribe button, or whether you're on, iTunes app, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify. I don't know if we're there. SoundCloud. I think I already said Stitcher. Overcast. I know there's some Overcast listeners out there from what I see from the stats of each episode. So I thank you out there who do listen on Overcast. And if you're listening on Overcast, I know you can easily swipe left on the podcast and hit recommend. I don't know exactly what that does, but hopefully it can recommend us. And then please share us with your friends, because that'll help out greatly. Word of mouth always helps, spreading the love. And if you are a new listener and by the end you do feel obligated, maybe not obligated, you feel empowered to hit that subscribe button, you become an honorary Jersey Kid member, and that is exciting. That's exciting stuff. So now that I'm done with the whole spiel, maybe this is going to be, hopefully I can go an hour. For all you guys beautiful ear holes out there who like listening to the podcast for an hour every single week on Fridays, I gotta keep plugging it because that's what I'm known for nowadays. You can also, before I roll into everything, I have to shout out Gary's Twitch streaming service. Not service, but Twitch streaming channel that he does. It's twitch.tv/scavenger18. There's a 3 in there for the E after the V, just FYI. So check him out. He streams a lot of PUBG and Fortnite. He's pretty good at it, and he's the man. So I guess roll into what I've been doing this week. Thank you for asking, Adam. I know, Adam. I'm not going crazy on this podcast, I promise. But what I've been doing gaming-wise, I promised last week on episode 58 that I would be playing Shadow of War because I've been so excited for it, and I've put in about a grand total of 3 hours into it, because I had some free time finally to just sit down, relax, play a game, not worry about outside. I finished all my chores around my apartment, so I was able to just sit down and play Shadow of War. And so far, it just reminds me of Shadow of Mordor, which is a great thing. It seems like right now I haven't got too far in depth to the upgraded Nemesis system to understand. Right now, stuck in the beginning portions of trying to stop a siege or stop an attack on Minas Tirith. So I've been seeing a lot of high-level Captain Orcs running around. I had a fun experience where I basically fended off 4 in 1 because they just all decided to show up. And I actually have not yet died in this world yet, so that's exciting. But it's all what you expect. They added on some loot system where you can actually, every time you kill a captain, you can possibly get a weapon or a dagger that's greater level-wise, does a little more damage, get a new bow, get a new armor, get a new headpiece. I like the loot mechanic in it. It's very simplistic, so it adds an extra thing to it. You can also use coins that you collect from certain orcs. You can purchase gem slots for your weapon, because that somehow makes sense in this world, using coins to purchase gem slots. And then you also have the dreaded loot boxes that they have. I have not dove into that because, frankly, I'm a normal gamer. I'm a normal fan of gaming, and I don't like those loot boxes. I don't really particularly see the point. Shout out to every developer out there that doesn't put loot boxes in, because they are dumb. I don't really ever see the purpose of it. I know they're for cosmetic purposes. In this game, it allows you to go farther or level up more quickly, which is basically, again, screams like you just don't want people to play your game for a longer period of time. I don't understand that. You're basically, stopping them from enjoying the Nemesis system that it is. And I've been hearing... Again, we talk about the story with Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor had a lackluster ending to the story, and the lackluster story, in my opinion, all the way through. I didn't really get connected too much to the Talion, the Hunter. I just enjoyed the gameplay, enjoyed the Nemesis system, and I just basically got my own story out of the Nemesis system, which I think that's the main point that the developers were getting behind. That you can create your own stories with the Nemesis system. Orcs do remember you if they survive, and that is what I'm seeing here. That's what it's already getting off to a point where I'm like, why do I matter? We crafted a new ring of power. Some spider transformed to a woman, took the ring, and we're trying to get it back. So it just seems like now we're doing a run around trying to get the ring back. And I don't see the main... I don't see the main draw story-wise. The main draw that I get is the interaction between orcs, the ones you put down, and, rising through the ranks, and I look forward to actually starting to plant the Italian seed. Man, that sounds very sexual. Plant a seed in all the orcs, and have the dominated orcs rise up the ranks. And, I look forward to the fortress battles that are promised in this game. And so far I'm in the beginning siege portions of Act 1, so I'm not that far, but I can already see that I'm enjoying it. The large set pieces that they have going on already is exciting as you're just running around. Gameplay-wise, I had to get back into how the game feels, and again, it just feels great, in my opinion. That's all I can say about the game right now. It just plays amazing. It is strange, though, that you start back from the original leveling up tree, where you're basically getting the levels you got in the first Shadow of War, so you're kind of confused. I guess they could play it off of the fact that your Wraith was stolen from you, and then you formed back together, and now you have to build that, skills bond again, which makes no sense. But there's that. I did notice when it came to these open world games that I'm starting now, getting in the older, is that they sometimes feel a little too overwhelming with the amount of stuff that is in the game. And mind you, this is not even on the level of The Witcher with the amount of stuff that's going on. But there's going to collect Shelob, the Spider-Woman memories. There's collecting little things to complete a poem. There's collecting Gondor artifacts. There's then going through Celebrimbor's memories and getting new, getting new skills that way. And it just seems like there's so much to do, and I'm like, there's so little time. But my OCD nature in me wants to actually go and collect those things, because it's like that's what we like about video games, especially in the open world, is just hitting those check marks, hitting those check boxes, getting, basically just completing a list, because who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love seeing that tick mark going up and up to 100%? Who doesn't love doing that? I mean, I do, but it just seems overwhelming now, where the time that I could put into a game like Shadow of Mordor, I can't put into Shadow of War nowadays, but I'm going to try my best. You're probably going to hear me talk about it, just warnings, you're going to hear me talk about it for weeks upon weeks, because right now I don't have a set time where I can finish it. Maybe one of these weekends where it's just me just lounging around, maybe I'll finally hop into it and finally complete the game. But so far I'm enjoying it. I'm getting what I expected out of it. Anybody looking for grandiose story that's amazing storytelling, honestly, you're probably not going to get it in this game. I would say go over to Naughty Dog, because they're the best at it. Shout out to the best developer out there. But that is it. I've been rambling on for about 10 minutes now. I know you guys are enjoying so far just listening to my beautiful voice. Unfortunately, I can't comment on Gary's hair this week. I know last week I did comment about it a lot, and I'm sure all you Jersey kids out there loved it. But it is time now for This Week in Gaming, brought to you by Gatorade. This is for you, Gary. I'm doing it for you. So apparently, on this day, Orange Box was released on Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, Windows, the Mac, and Linux in 2007. It contained 5 games. Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 3, Portal, and Team Fortress. Now, I am a noob when it comes to all of these games because I never, unfortunately, all of these are on my shame list. I never got around to playing them. I know my good friend Paul, shout out to a Jersey friend, Paul, high school friend, middle school, elementary, all the way through. I think he had the Orange Box and he did play Team Fortress, and I think he also played Portal. I'm never sure he got around to Half-Life 2, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that is definitely on my wall of shame of games that I never played, and it's kind of unfortunate. But overall, this collection would receive universal praise. IGN would call it the, quote, best deal in video game history, end quote. The Orange Box would receive a 96 rating on Metacritic, with the PS3 version rating lower at 86 out of 100 because of technical issues. Shocking, because PS3 back in that era, especially in the beginning, had all technical issues. Them trying to be fancy with their cell processor and, saying you need a new job to pay for the PS3, which makes no sense. Of all the games, Portal was a surprise favorite from the collection, receiving praise for his unique puzzle gameplay mechanics. Portal exploded when Orange Box came out. People were just excited for the Half-Life 2 and I think Team Fortress, but no one expected Portal to do as well as it did. And it's kind of funny, going back to this, you don't see these type of bundles anymore. This was like a this is a crazy thing that they're releasing 3 amazing games in this bundle. I remember getting, the God of War bundle where just the first and second game for relatively cheap, and that was amazing, in my opinion. But now you're getting 5 games in one bundle that they're all amazing, and spawn Portal and then Portal 2. Who knows when Portal 3 or Half-Life 3 will ever come out. If they'll ever come out, I'm sure there's probably a lot of hype, a lot of nervousness. There's the words. If you're a new listener, you're gonna hear me stumble from time to time. I am the host, and since I'm talking this whole entire time, I'm bound to make mistakes. I am bound to make mistakes. Just stick with me. The next game in this list of This Week in Gaming, SOCOM 3, the U.S. Navy SEALs, released on PS2 in 2005. SOCOM 3 is a third-person tactical shooter that combines the elements of a strategy, stealth, reflex, and hand-eye coordination. There are 14 different single-player missions, 6 in North Africa, 3 in South Asia, 5 in Poland, plus an optional training mission station in North Africa. When SOCOM 3 was released onto the public, it gathered a mixture of positive and negative reviews. Fans of the previous installment felt that the new camera and aiming system was an unwelcome change from their SOCOM and SOCOM 2 counterparts. They also felt that the intimacy of SOCOM 2 maps was lost in a transition to large-scale 32-player combat, faulty squad AI during single-player as well as short single-player campaign. Many complaints were brought up because of the lack of SOCOM and SOCOM 2 maps in SOCOM 3, which many felt were better than the current maps. Regardless, this game achieved solid ratings, with IGN claiming it was the best online PS2 game at the time. Remember buying SOCOM 2... Gary states here, I'm not going to say that I had taken Gary's memories because that would be complete BS, but Gary puts here, he remembers buying SOCOM 2 as a kid, and he thought for sure he was going to like it, but for whatever reason, never clicked with him. I guess he chalks it up to being young and stupid, because I never seemed to understand the mission structure or what needed to be done. I was much more used to a shoot-'em-up style like Medal of Honor Frontline. Solid game as well. Good pull, Gary. But I do have some memories of SOCOM. I never actually played it. I do remember SOCOM 4 coming out for PS4 or PS3 and people being hyped about it. And unfortunately, I don't think it lived up to the hype. And I remember SOCOM used to be a big thing from what I can remember. It used to be a large online shooter, especially SOCOM 2. I think it was SOCOM 2. And I have this ingrained in my brain, this memory of SOCOM 2 always being used on a G4 TV show back in the day that would always come on in the morning at like 6 a.m. and it was about 2 teams. This was before MLG or Major League Gaming was a big thing, or esports. It was 2 teams competing against each other in different games like Jedi, or was it Jedi? What's that game? I can't remember. It's just you run around as Jedi attacking each other. Return of the Jedi? No, that's it. Jedi Knights. There it is. And also SOCOM 2 was another one. You also had Quake in it. But I remember people playing SOCOM and it being more tactical based when they were playing this game and or on this show. I don't want to say it was called The Gauntlet, but it was something along those lines, that style. I remember they would curse all the time, the announcers, and my mom got really mad at me when she heard that I was watching it, or she overheard me watching the show. She was like, "What is this?" Because I was a young kid at the time, and I probably shouldn't be hearing people dropping the F-bomb or the S-bomb when I was that young. But you live and you learn. That's going to happen, folks. If there's parents out there, I'm sure your kids have heard curse words, maybe from you, maybe from other friends' parents, or maybe other friends. It's just going to happen. So don't be surprised when you're young Johnny or young I don't know, Alexa. I don't know what words am I saying. Young Ellie just started dropping F-bombs left and right. But yeah, that's what SOCOM 2 brings to my mind, in my brain. I'm not stealing Gary's memories this time, I promise. But that has been This Week in Gaming, and I think it's time. Is it time? It's time for the news. We've been doing this so far for 16 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm pretty proud of myself right now that I have not yet stopped this podcast because my throat is about to explode. But I'm sure at the end of it, my voice is going to be hoarse and tired. But we're going to start it off with South Park. Apparently, the South Park creators, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, discussed what other genres they would like to explore in an interview with IGN. They write, quote, "I would love to make a first-person shooter, and I'm not even kidding. Some sort of first-person shooter going through a 3D thing where you're seeing characters." Stone went on to note how the role-playing genre is such a good fit for South Park, saying, quote, "I love the way we do the fractured butthole," man, that name, "and Stick of Truth, where the whole conceit behind those is it looks like the show." Parker also pointed out how, quote, "RPGs just play so well into writing and applying characters," end quote, which makes the genre such a good fit for South Park. While he sees the role-playing genre as, quote, "the best possible thing," end quote, for the series, Stone is still interested in exploring South Park from a first-person's perspective. Quote, "Some part of me would love to run around in South Park. I'm like a first-person video gamer. I just like that," end quote. He did explain. And in my opinion, I do think it'd be cool. I would love to see how the South Park creators sort of write the first-person, game and how they incorporate that. And I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes the funniest first-person shooter or first-person game out there. I'm not sure what type of first-person aspect you'd be. Would it be a shooter? Would it be... I honestly don't know. Would it be a hack and slash like Skyrim? That would be kind of amazing. 2D blades going around. It'd be kind of nuts. But here's the thing that I want to say to these creators. The fact that they've, Stick of Truth never kept getting pushed back because they had such, going through growing pains of trying to figure out how to develop a game, mapping out Call of South Park because they never had to do it before. Then you have the Fractured Butthole getting pushed back basically a whole year. If they ever choose to do another game, because it seems like after the Stick of Truth, I was not expecting them to drop the Fractured Butthole. I did not expect them to bring back another game in the South Park universe. I thought they were one and done. They had their great ride. They put out a great game, but they decided they wanted to do more, which South Park does have, I think, a reasonable cast of characters that they can do more genres. But I would be nervous if they do announce a first-person South Park game. I would be nervous if this game would ever come out, or it'll probably be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Who knows? Because you already sort of learned from the Stick of Truth how going through growing pains and everything of, mapping out. And these guys aren't video game writers, so to speak. They write on South Park. And I could see them trying to transition to a first-person game, seeing how that would interact, how dialogue would be interactive between the two. I guess right now it kind of fits in with the fact that the main character in The Stick of Truth never said a word, and every other character just spoke for him, basically. So maybe it could work that way. Maybe they probably worked in some joke about the player not talking in first-person mode. I don't know. I would love to see what they would do. I don't think I would be able to we would see it anytime in the near future. That's just me being honest, my skeptical opinion, because that's what me and Gary most of the time are skeptics. We don't believe things until they're actually in our hands or they're doing well. Like, for example, PUBG, shout out to one of the earlier episodes when H1Z1 was losing their fan base to this little game called PUBG. Me and Gary were, I'll believe when I see it when it comes to certain things. We can be very skeptical, and I think that's offers a different opinion than a lot of the insider industries who always it seems like just hop on the proverbial D of every developer out there and just rides them hard, thinking that they're going to release in a certain amount of time, get so excited about every game that they're about to release, and, sometimes they sugarcoat things when a game is actually just not that great. It's just kind of the truth, and I don't think me and Gary try to sugarcoat things. We try to give it to you real and raw and dirty. But moving on, apparently Xbox One's original Xbox backwards compatibility is still coming in 2017. At the Brazilian game show, GameSpot caught up with Xbox boss Phil Spencer, who provided some insight into where things stand with the upcoming feature. Quote, "We're close. We're really close," end quote. Spencer said when asked about the status of Xbox backward compatibility, quote, "I have a little dashboard I go to and I can see all the games and where they are getting approvals in the pipeline. I know the games that are coming for the original Xbox, but I don't think we've announced them all. We have to do this in partnership with partners, but we're still on track. I feel really good that games look great," end quote. And I'm sure they do look good. I'm sure people would be excited to go back and play old games on their Xbox One. Crimson Sky, I think, was announced way back when. Solid one of the first Xbox Live games that I remember playing. Fantastic dogfighting mechanic in that original Xbox game. I'm not sure why they never try to bring back another Crimson Skies. I feel like right now there's not much dogfighting playing games you see out there, and I feel like it have a niche, as some people like to say, marketplace, where just people would latch onto that. I'm trying to think of other original Xbox games that would come out. I do love me some Fusion Frenzy, the classic Xbox try-to party game. I feel like that game is actually pretty fun. Some people think it's dumb. I think it's dumb, but also in a dumb, fun way. You have the classic Halos. I'm trying to remember old Xbox games I used to play. Blink's Time Sweeper Cat. Effing right, am I right? I don't think that game was actually that great, but there's another Microsoft game. I'm trying to think of more exclusive Microsoft games that could be released. Nothing's coming to my brain right now, but Xbox had some solid games back when I originally had it. But again, we'll see what's going on when it finally comes out. I'll comment more about it, what games are being released. They say it's coming out in 2017. They still have some time, along with they say this is coming out in 2017 along with, Bethesda. We talked last week saying that they have another IP or another game coming out in 2017, just haven't even said it. But I think the time is getting close to when you need to be announcing a game if it's going to release in 2017, unless it's like a remaster game being dropped, And I think, I'm excited to see what the Xbox backwards compatibility lineup would be. But to be blunt with you guys, I know people always get excited about backwards compatibility. They always get excited when they announce it. People were excited when Xbox originally announced 360 backwards compatibility, and they were excited with Xbox backwards compatibility. I feel ya. I understand. I used to get excited when they would announce backwards compatibility for a PlayStation or Xbox. When 360 played Xbox games, I was ecstatic because I was like, hey, parents, this actually plays old games that you purchased, so it's not a waste of time or not a waste of money. Same with some, GameCube and the Wii. I was excited about that I wouldn't lose the great GameCube games that I had, like Double Dash and Melee and all that. But here's the thing. I'm gonna speak the truth. Does anybody, if you're a Jersey Kid out there, you can tweet the podcast at 2 Jersey Kids if you disagree with me, but I don't think too many people actually use backwards compatibility. Maybe I'm just, I know it's exciting that you can go back and play those games, but if you're going to choose an updated game right now that looks beautiful, 3D modeled versus an older, especially Xbox, it's still using like polygons, maybe not polygons, but it's still rendered poorly, and most of the time it's 3D games, especially in Xbox. You're not getting the 2D sprite, beautiful looking SNES games bringing back to the new console market. You're getting 3D rendered, poorly rendered games out there that don't look quite as good, and the gameplay mechanic wise, the controls are completely different than what they used to be. They're completely different, and it's just not going to feel as well as games do right now. So are you really going to bring out all those old games and try to play them? And I guarantee you, if you do, you're probably not going to stick with them that long. That's just my opinion. But that's just how I feel. No one's going to stick with these games that long. Maybe if they offer online capability for Crimson Sky, I feel like that may be the only original Xbox game people will come back to, because that was a fantastic dogfighting game. And again, like I said, there's not many dogfighting playing games out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tweet the podcast at 2 Jersey Kids, or you can tweet me at Adam J. Buckingham. But moving on, I did want to discuss this little article by the Game Freak they put together on the site, and I thought it was kind of interesting talking point, but it was, I wouldn't talk with Gary, but, he's not here. Maybe I'll talk with him more about next week. You guys can actually hear his thoughts on it. But it was just putting together the top 5 most expensive video games ever developed. And I thought that was kind of fascinating who showed up the most on the list, which, if you are listening right now, I'm sure you can pause the podcast, take a guess, and I'll tell you at the end if you're right. Starting off, number 5 is Grand Theft Auto 4. In 2008, it was developed for $100 million. And right now, with inflation, it would be $111 million. And I remember when Grand Theft Auto 4 came out. It's been a while since San Andreas. It felt like it's been a while. This is the first actually legitimate Grand Theft Auto game that I purchased, that I was able to own and play, because I had to go over a cousin's house to play like GTA 3 or Vice City. Never specifically owned a GTA game until Grand Theft Auto 4. And I do remember that I did enjoy the game, but I didn't see all the hype. I liked the fact that you could run around, do, Grand Theft Auto things, shoot people left and right, release some stress that way of the hard life of, in high school, because that is. But I remember when this game came out, and the world was, so vast. It was basically, it was a Liberty City, New York. Beautiful, large. It was... I'm burping. I'm sorry. The carbon water seltzer's water probably got to me finally. But I remember playing this game, and it was just beautiful. And them adding multiplayer to it. I remember playing multiplayer maps, trying to do quote-unquote heists, what they had back then. Compared to now, it's not even close. But I do remember when this game came out, and it was huge. So many people bought it. But it was eclipsed later on by the next in the line of development of these games. But next in the series, I should say. And then number 4, you have Max Payne 3, released in 2012. Do we see a trend here? It was another Rockstar developed game. It was developed for $105 million, and with inflation, it's $110 million today, which is kind of insane that this game cost so much to develop. And I never actually played a Max Payne game. The only experience I have with Max Payne is in another G4 TV show, Cheaters, I think it was called. Was it Cheaters? Cheat Codes? Something. Where you basically talked about how to beat certain levels, like, for example, Hitman. They would always explain how to beat that, or they would give you cheat codes for other random games. And I remember Max Payne, the original Max Payne was on that, and Max Payne 2, I'm not sure how Max Payne 3 did. It said it was in these quotes that they have in this article, it was a quote-unquote solid game. But I'm going to move on to number 3. Another Rockstar game. Is it shocking to hear Grand Theft Auto 5 releasing in 2013? It cost $137 million to develop, and $142 million now with inflation. And I mean, I think it was well worth it. I mean, you see Grand Theft Auto 5 now in the charts constantly, top 10 all the time. Sometimes it's number 2. Sometimes it's a top seller lately. I mean, it's insane that this game keeps going on, and it's not surprising because they have GTA Online and people love this game. I mean, I still have friends from aerospace buddies from college that still play GTA 5 for the online, and they're just doing it for not even the heists that they add or any other random stuff, but they do like racing. They race each other in these crazy tracks, which is insane. And this, just them, Rockstar releasing this GTA Online mechanic or system, it was a brilliant move on their part. And I feel like it keeps elongating the series, elongating the game, and it keeps selling. And Rockstar is probably making buku amount of money. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do that with Red Dead Redemption 2. Make a Red Dead Online. I'm not sure how they're going to make it as exciting as GTA Online, because GTA Online has a bunch of cars running around, and horses aren't really as exciting as cars, let's be honest. But I do remember Red Dead Online, the first one, not really GTA Online level of immersiveness, but it was taking a character, doing missions with your friends, rounding up outlaws. That was kind of fun, and I could definitely see that happening here. Leveling up a character, leveling up an outlaw, maybe joining a gang, building up a gang with your friends. So, yeah. I don't want to go on to Red Dead more, but we did do an episode talking about the trailer last week, so check episode 58 out if you want to hear our reactions on that trailer. Number 2, coming in hot, Destiny, released in 2014 for the development cost of $140 million, and now $143 million with inflation. And that's not even talking about how much they put into advertising this game. I think I remember, stories coming out, the advertisement, $500 million for this game. And again, I mean, I know there's probably a decent amount of Destiny haters out there, but come on. I think it was worth it. I mean, you're seeing what Destiny was. Destiny was still a large game, even when it had its flaws in the original release. And now Destiny 2 is doing pretty well from my understanding, and people have been enjoying the upgrade to it. I personally have not played Destiny 2 yet. I know Gary's been playing it, and I'm sure he's going to get it on PC to play. Again, it's not a game that I'm going to run out and get anymore. I'm just going to sit and wait and see what I'm vibing at the time. Maybe it'll be on sale and I'll get it. Swoop in and grab a deal. You know what I mean? Thrifty gamers out there. The final one, shocking but not too much when I thought about it, because I remember hearing big things from EA when it came to this game. It's Star Wars The Old Republic, released in 2011, and I know this game. I wanted to specifically talk about this game with Gary. Maybe we'll just talk about this game next week, because this is a thorn in Gary's side. This is a steaming pile of crap in Gary's life right now, because Gary, if any of you Jersey kids have listened to this podcast since the beginning, Gary is a KOTOR lover. And if you guys don't know what KOTOR is, what you doing here? But no, seriously, it is Knights of the Old Republic. They were BioWare released the first one, and then Obsidian released the second one. Masterpieces in Star Wars RPGs. I personally love Knights of the Republic. Gary he's played the first one maybe 10 times, beat it. Played the second one probably 20 times and beat it. Gary loves Knights of the Old Republic. He loves playing those games, and this was sort of a thorn in his side because he always wanted KOTOR 3. I still believe it can happen. I still believe that they can release a Knights of the Old Republic 3, or maybe not Knights of the Old Republic 3, but some sort of Star Wars RPG that's in this type of vein. But I remember when this came out, and it was one of the, they were trying to go the World of Warcraft model with, spending $15 at launch, and it's $15 a month, and it was just insane. It just didn't seem like, from what I was hearing content-wise, the end of when you got to the max level, which seems to happen in a lot of these max level shoot and loot games or, MMOs, sometimes the developers don't think about end of game content, like what can you do to prolong the game for people or make them come back in the future, and they ended up making it free to play down the road. And I remember me and Gary did play it when it was free to play, and it's actually pretty enjoyable MMO. Story wise, again, MMOs, I never really connect with story. I know that's what they tried to do here, and they had a lot of voice acting, and some of the voice acting was pretty good, connected story-wise, but I can never quite, get into that because, in my mind, MMOs are just running around getting better gear until you can get to the final, the highest level to do those cool dungeons or cool raids, and I never quite got there with the Old Republic. But I don't know if I mentioned this, but it cost $200 million to develop, and it was, with inflation, it's now $213 million, which is insane. But as you can see, Rockstar was the developer that won this. They just put shit tons of money into their games, so is that surprising with the quality that Rockstar produces? Sometimes they're delayed a lot, their games. GTA 5 and now Red Dead Redemption 2. But, when they come out, people just go absolutely apeshit for the Rockstar games. And I'm sure people are going to go crazy for Red Dead Redemption 2. But I hope my voice is not slowing down. I forgot to bring water to where I was recording. But, I'm sorry if it is, but I'm going to power through. We're going to move on. So, there was a thing that was going around Eurogamer, Kotaku. I know Kotaku had an article saying the ESRB basically stating that loot boxes aren't gambling. And then I looked into the Eurogamer article, read that through. If you want to actually have a nice read, I would recommend the Eurogamer article. It's posing questions, are loot boxes gambling? And it runs through a lot of different theories, a lot of different takes on it, and one sort of expert excerpt of the article kind of stood out, and I thought it was kind of fascinating. It said, like real-time gambling, loot boxes appeal to our deep psychological need for reward. Psychologist and behaviorist B.F. Skinner researched something called the variable ratio schedule, a reward system typically used by casinos, which sees a person rewarded at varying times. So if someone does a positive behavior such as buying a loot box and opening it, they could be rewarded the first time. Then they're not rewarded again until the sixth box they buy. Then the third after that. Then a 10th, and so on. Quote, whenever you open a loot box, you may get something awesome or you may get trash, end quote. Video game psychologist and author James Madigan says, quote, this randomness taps into some of the very fundamental ways our brains work when trying to predict whether or not a good thing will happen. Quote, we are particularly excited by unexpected pleasures like a batch of wild berries or an epic skin for our character. This is because our brains are trying to pay attention to and trying to figure out such awesome rewards. But unlike in the real world, these rewards can be completely random or close enough not to matter. And we can't predict randomness, but the reward system in your brain doesn't know that, end quote. So, it's just they talk about debating on third party using loot boxes, and off the top of my head, I don't think loot boxes are gambling. I picture them just as baseball cards or Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you get in back in the day, where you would get excited by opening a pack, hoping you'll get something amazing, but in the end of the day, the difference between this and gambling and casinos is that you are, quote-unquote, getting something, whether it's of game value, that is to be debatable, but you are still getting a good or something that you can collect, unlike casinos where you could end up with basically nothing. And I think the fact that if it stays in-game and no third party is offering value for certain things, like selling certain cards for that, then I think if it's just in-game value, you can't really consider it gambling, and I feel like that's what the ESRB came down as, is because it stays in-game and it still offers quote-unquote game value and not any intrinsic outside of the game value. But I could definitely see how opening packs does trigger that portion of the brain where when we get something amazing, like in Hearthstone, you get a legendary, you get excited and you want to go purchase more because you may get more. But I've opened in Hearthstone, I've opened maybe 100 packs one time in a row, just for funsies, and I never got a legendary. Just the way things, sometimes random luck happens that way. I mean, most of the time if people do that, they will get a legendary. They may get 2 legendary cards. Who knows? But it can happen where you're not getting a good draw, so to speak, when it comes to these packs. And I do understand the tick. I remember reading when it comes to a lot of stock market books, they always talk about trying to not pay attention, try not to be a day trader, because a lot of times when you watch the stocks consistently day to day, every minute of every day, you watch stocks going up and down. A lot of times when you see a stock that you purchased at a low point go up into the green, you get excited. But then when you buy a stock that's high and drops down to the red, you get sadder than that high, and you're always trying to look for that next, basically hit of dopamine that makes you excited that you bought a stock that's going high. But they say in the end of the day, the happiest actual quote-unquote stock trader is somebody that actually doesn't pay attention to the day-to-day. They pay attention for a month at a time, or for the matter, like 3 months at a time, or 6 months at a time, because you're not going to worry too much about the ebb and flow of the quote-unquote stock market. Same with here, you're going to actually, in loot boxes, you're going to feel it more because you're going to open them consistently every second. You're going to feel low because you're not getting that next value added to your quote-unquote game experience. So I can see where it draws that itch where you want to actually get that excitement again, get that rush of finding a new thing in something random, something out of the ordinary. And in the end, I don't think that, for anybody that purchases loot boxes, that's your onus. You live in a free country, hopefully. But if you live in the US of A, you definitely do. You can do with your money how damn well you please. And if you want to purchase these loot boxes, be my guest. The one thing I get worried about when it comes to loot boxes and these type of things is when it comes to like kids and marketing loot boxes to kids, because to be honest, kids don't know better. I mean, I'm not saying anything crazy. Kids don't really know better. They probably think their parents are made. Some kids, I'm not going to generalize kids, but some kids definitely think that their parents are made of limited money. They can just buy anything. They just don't want to sometimes because of some random reason that they're thinking about. But I've heard stories, people, their child goes playing a game on their phone, not thinking of anything because they don't understand the connection between purchasing some in-game currency with the outside world, and they end up, because of an advertisement, say, oh, you can get this many more lives so you can keep playing this game that you're, addicted to, basically. And they just automatically just click it because, an iPhone or an Android is set up to your credit card through the App Store, and, you purchase $100 worth of extra lives or something along those lines. And that's where I draw a line with certain type of loot boxes or certain type of, in-game microtransactions when you're actually advertising it in a child's game nonetheless. I think I see Marta, not to put her out there, but she plays, I mentioned last week, she plays Inside Out, like basically a Snoot-style game where you're shooting bubbles to match 3 bubbles, and it's kind of like a puzzle. But I'm pretty certain you can actually purchase more lives, which is kind of crazy. And then they also add like a roulette wheel where you can then spin again to get more lives if you just watch an ad, and then they're advertising straight to kids. And I remember watching the Minimalist podcasts where it's kind of insane how much money they're spending on marketing specifically to kids, not to the parents. It used to be, they would market to the mom or the dad because then the mom or dad felt the obligation, oh, I want to do something nice for my son or daughter, and I'm going to go out and buy this random bullshit thing that's actually not that fun because they only make it fun in the commercials that the kids are watching. But now they spend close to, I think, is $100 billion correct? I think that's what it was, $100 billion in marketing during like kid shows on Cartoon Network or Disney. It's insane. It's madness. It's kind of messed up when you market directly to kids who don't quite understand the concept of money and waiting and earning the money and actually going out and purchasing yourself for if that's what you want. It just seems a little shady to me whenever you do that in a game or, in the real world with marketing. But, unfortunately, Gary's the marketer is not here. You just have the engineer. But moving on to my favorite game. Just kidding, it's not my favorite game. Oh, no, I actually skipped one. So before I make the sarcastic comment about this other game, you'll hear it later on. But apparently, speaking of microtransactions, it's apparently maybe a major issue in Battlefront II. I kind of wanted Gary to be on this podcast to talk about it. I'm sure I'm going to ask him next week about it because he played the beta. He streamed it, actually, so check out his Twitch channel again, twitch.tv/scavenger18 with an E, or a 3 for an E in there. Or a 3 after the V, as I said earlier. But yeah, microtransactions are in Battlefront 2, apparently. Battlefront 2's progression system seems almost entirely dependent on loot boxes, which give players a random selection of power-ups, weapons, emotes, and more. However, getting everything you need to get more powerful, even a scope for a weapon, takes an inordinate number of hours if you don't buy extra crate, seemingly forcing players to spend money to win. Now, I mean, there's a larger... I think the article goes on a little bit more, but the fact that they have that portion here... And I remember reading this before, and I didn't want to touch on it because I wanted to Gary to play the beta and give me a comment, but this is how I feel about it. The fact that they were replacing progression with loot boxes where it's just randomness to upgrading your weapon or scope seems insane. The fact that they're saying that it takes a longer amount of time, not the normal amount of time you see in like Battlefield or Call of Duty, but a significant amount of time to just get another weapon or a scope is kind of insane. I'm just going off face value here, and I think it's dumb having loot boxes as progression. I think loot boxes should be something cosmetic and outside the game, not something in the game that can change how people are playing, how well somebody does. And it's never a good look when, somebody says it's seemingly forcing players to spend money to win. What does that look like? I mean, that should have backlash, and I'm sure people will jump on EA because people, frankly, the video game industry hates EA. Not the industry, but the fans hate EA. They're money grubbing, and this... Honestly, it's kind of showing that you are, if you're taking away progression just to have loot boxes, because nowadays everything needs loot boxes. I don't understand it. I don't get it, why loot boxes are a huge thing nowadays. It's just nuts. And you're now replacing progression, people putting time and effort into it, over... Now you're just putting loot boxes as the main thing, which is stupid. If you ask me, it's dumb. I don't understand it. I think it should get... Loot boxes should be out of games, really, unless they're, cosmetic like in Dota. But the fact that you can get, different weapons or different scopes in-game is kind of insane. But, I've talked about microtransaction enough and how much I despise it. But moving on to the game that I love. Just kidding. It's the game that I chose and talked about a few weeks back. Topic submitted by Kat, one of the Jersey kids out there. She basically asked us what our anti-wish list games were, what games we actually weren't going to go out and purchase, what games we weren't going to go out this fall and purchase, and this game was on the list, Assassin's Creed Origins. But apparently it's going to feature adjustable difficulty because this game now is apparently more of an RPG than it used to be before. And game director Asaf Ismail told Games Radar in an interview, quote, "We wanted more gameplay depth, and that means more challenging aspects of the game, bosses, and so on. What we felt was by going deeper into the gameplay challenge of the game, we're feeding one part of the audience but not others. So it was a natural step for us to think, well, let's give difficulty settings so that if you're really more into narrative or historical element, you can set the game to an easier setting. If you're the opposite, if you really want that very difficult challenge, you can set the game to a harder setting." I don't know if this is crazy news. I have a biased opinion maybe on Assassin's Creed, especially Assassin's Creed Origins. It didn't really tickle my giblets when this game was shown at E3. It didn't show me anything. It showed me like a lackluster combat system that tried to emulate Dark Souls style, but looked piss poor. And I see a lot of people at IGN saying, "Oh man, October 27th is so exciting because you have Wolfenstein 2, which I'm excited for that game. You have Super Mario Odyssey, again, fantastic looking game. Then you have Assassin's Creed Origins. Which game are you going to choose?" Let's be real. No one... in my opinion, Assassin's Creed Origins doesn't even compete with those other two games. It doesn't look nearly as good and doesn't excite me nearly as much. And anybody out there, I would hope they feel the same way, because I mean, what has Assassin's Creed shown you in the trailers? What had they shown you? They have some eagle mechanic, woo! Marking targets, woo! That was what they do. We've done in the past few years now with Ghost Recon and Far Cry and all this jazz, and now they're adding it to Assassin's Creed. Whoop-de-fucking-do. So I don't understand people being excited about this game, but hopefully, if you do purchase it, I hope it's good and you enjoy it, but I've never been excited about Assassin's Creed Origin, and, that it hasn't shown me yet why I should purchase this, and people on the insiders are falling over themselves, like, yes, this is what I want, Assassin's Creed, another Assassin's Creed game, yay! Come on, people. It's not. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out and be mediocre. It would be hilarious, though, if it came out and it was just, like, still buggy as what was the French Syndicate was. Well, I honestly wouldn't be shocked anymore. Final one. Everyone's favorite game, Mass Effect Andromeda, is being brought to EA and Origin Access just 7 months after release. EA has outlined what members will get for free on Xbox One with EA Access and PC with Origin Access over the remainder of the year. Both platforms will get a full PC or full version of Andromeda, quote unquote, soon, although the exact details were not shared for this or any upcoming Access content. I have to say, I feel like, me and Gary talked about Mass Effect Andromeda constantly on this podcast over and over again. And I just have to feel like you getting it for free. I think you purchase. Do you purchase an EA Access? I haven't checked out the Origin Access or EA Access accounts. But if you actually have to purchase them like you do PS Plus, but you're still getting this for free, I feel like people are going to have a different tune for Mass Effect Andromeda. I feel like it's going to be a solid game for $0. I feel like people are actually going to love it because you're getting a lot of RPG out of it. And I feel like people maybe this will give it a second chance. Hopefully, maybe people will give it a look now, and people say, hey, this is not actually as bad as people on Reddit made it out to be. Sure, it was buggy. I'm sure they fixed the bugs now. I'm sure it was just they didn't have enough time to complete it, but from what I hear story-wise, it's a pretty solid story, and people, now looking back, have been enjoying it, so I wouldn't be shocked that way. And I just feel like it's certain games now where I'm going to be blunt with, like, insiders and, outsiders, like fans, where you just, sometimes you guys hop on the bandwagon of this game sucks or F this game just to join the crowd instead of having your own opinion. Now, I'm not saying you as the Jersey kids, I'm just saying generic you, like video game industry. They like to hop on the bandwagon and just kick developers while they're down just because they're EA or just because, I don't know, they're Ubisoft, except CD Projekt Red, because everyone loves CD Projekt Red. Gary would love that. Gary would have said that if he was here. But yeah, it just seems like sometimes video game industry fans just want to hop on something just because. They hopped on No Man's Sky. Granted, everything wasn't promised. I know me and Gary's gone through that constantly, but the game was still somewhat decent I know the price was still a little hefty, but if you were into that exploration mode, it was definitely worth $60 for you. But if not, then you could have easily waited. But a lot of people hopped on the bandwagon, purchased it, spent 70-some hours into it, and then ended up giving it a bad review, asking for their money back, which is bullshit. I know me and Gary have mentioned it before. You're basically stealing from a company, but that's just my opinion. Oh, man, I think my voice is about to be gone, so I am going to end this podcast here, basically. So thank you all for listening. This has been episode 59. I'm shocked you made it basically an hour inside my brain. Adam Buckingham. You can follow me at Adam J. Buckingham on Twitter, and you can follow the podcast at Two Jersey Kids. And please, when you get a chance, please give us a rating wherever you can. Stitcher has a rating system. You can rate us there. iTunes would be amazing. If you're a Jersey kid out there and you want to help and support Gary and I's podcast, please rate us. Get more eyes on the podcast. Maybe we'll grow. Right now, I think we have roughly 300 concurrent listeners so far. So we appreciate all you Jersey kids. We love you all so much. And if you're a new listener, I hope I hope you earn that subscribe button. I hope you hit that subscribe button. I hope you recommend us if you're on Overcast. I hope you tweet to your friends about this podcast. You tweet this podcast saying how much you love it, and people will see that and say, hey, maybe I'll check out this podcast. We really want to try to build a community eventually when we, maybe we'll get larger and larger, slowly grow, and finally become a thing. Me and Gary aren't going anywhere. I'm telling you right now, me and Gary are committed to this. We may take time off when it comes to us vacationing or something, but one of us, I think, will be here, or we'll try to get somebody else to record for us, which would be actually kind of funny, throwing all the Jersey kids off, like, who the hell are these people? But in the end, we appreciate all you guys. We love you so much. We love all our listeners. We love the fact that you sit here and listen to me rambling off, or me and Gary just talking about Gary's hair for a little while, or talking about random things just for funsies. So we appreciate and love you guys. Please share the podcast. Have a good weekend and keep playing those games. Bye.